It's always heartening to come back to educational institutions, especially your folk, your age. Might have not known this, but many years ago, when I introduced O-level drama to Pakistan, I thought students are going to rush to it. I mean, why not? I mean, it's theater, it's performance, it's expression. But that didn't happen. No one rushed. Perhaps I should say the parents did not rush to it. So I did what every struggling artist turned teacher does. I wore my salesman hat and I took them head on, the parents. And I asked them very respectfully, all right, what is your criteria to decide what subjects your children will take? And their answers were very logical, very structured, almost completely honest. And they said, good O-level results lead to good A-levels, lead to good college, lead to good degrees, lead to good jobs. And then I said, and there was pause. I said, no, okay, good jobs, and then a little laughter, right? A little laughter. I said, good jobs, go on, and then, and finally a parent smiled and said, lead to good rishtas. And we all laughed together. But in that laughter, there was a tragedy. In the match of art subject v. other subjects, art lost. But that wasn't the tragedy. The real tragedy was we lost art. We lost art. In educational systems across the world like O and A levels, students are put in neat streams like business, science, humanities. Arts are quiet somewhere in the corner. Optional. Options amongst options. It's really intriguing how subjects that teach us how to feel, we categorize them as options. And we think that we may be trimming the excess by putting them away. We're actually numbing our own nervous system. And it's not that we're deliberately and directly putting them away, we're just making all the other options very safe. And when we put them away, something strange happens. Because I want you to understand, art is not a subject. Arts are human functions. It's not art versus science, it's art and science. In fact, it's art in everything. Because without art, intelligence is efficient, but it is empty. I'm an economics grad. Economics can tell you about behavior. Art will teach you about experience. Law will define justice, but art will ask you the question, what does justice feel like? Business will create value. Art will create meaning. And when we put them away, when we put arts away, something strange happens. During COVID, the world slowed down. It paused. The noise dropped. And what did we all people turn to? What did we do? We baked bread. We started cooking. We started writing, dancing. Yeah? We did all that. We started living. We were seeking answers when the world stopped. We were seeking answers to survive. But we sought expression to exist. That's what happens when we ignore art. Now, we're living in a day and time where individuals create content for followers, likes, views, yeah? And we call them influencers. I can assure you by the end of today, you will start using that word with a little more discretion. Because popularity runs wide, influence sinks deep. 1 million views can pass through you, but one word of poetry, one line will stay. You might have forgotten 1,000 viral videos, but that one stays. That is influence. And sometimes, that line is dangerous. You see, artists are very sensitive to the world that they live in. And that sensitivity sometimes compels them to speak. It's not that artists are braver than others. It's just that they're less able to stay quiet and more able to express. They feel where others might suppress. And they're able to translate ugly discomfort into beautiful language. That's what art compels them to do. All societies have a line. They draw a line, as they should. Artists flirtatiously, joyously dance on it. And sometimes they step over. They're not always right, but they must be given the right to ask. Because power survives instability, and art introduces doubt. And doubt is where change comes from. That's what they do. No meaningful change happens without discomfort. None. And artists are professional discomfort creators. Yes, true art always puts up a mirror in front of society. But we live in a world where very often we only look at the mirror just to see our face. Not my lines, lines from Manto. By the way, there was another man. There was a man, a simple, extraordinary man, decades ago, who did choose the discomfort of uncertainty over silence. Not from a studio, not from behind a desk, but in public squares, in front of charged gatherings, in a simple shalwar kameez. Imagine this. Under harsh military rule, where men in uniform defined truth, this man, who could barely make ends meet, was invited on stage to speak. He knew what could happen. He knew who was listening. He knew the costs, yet he chose to take those steps. 1 step, 2 step, 3. He's on the stage and he speaks. He speaks words that could get him arrested, words that did get him arrested. And yet, he chose to speak again and again and again. 6 decades ago, this revolutionary poet of ours in Pakistan, Habib Jalib, chose to refuse comfort when it came at the cost of his truth. He spoke, and he described the world in his poetry. Not just describe it, he challenged it. Aise dastoor ko, subhe benur ko, main nahi manta, main nahi janta. Years later, I ended up on a film set where I was playing the role of a screenplay writer who's struggling, difficult to make ends meet, but also had to decide whether to speak the truth or give to the world what it really wants to sell. So I was roaming the set, exploring it, and I came across this book. It was old, worn out, and like its bold blue binding, it was fading away and almost forgotten. I picked it up, and I froze. This was a collection of work of Habib Jalib, personally signed by the great man himself, alive with his handwriting. And no one knew where it came from. A swarm of people around, and no one claimed it. The man whose words shook power, reduced to as a forgotten prop. Lavares. In that moment, I wasn't holding just a book. I was holding a portal, a perspective on life that I just started to begin to appreciate. Art is the rehearsal of empathy. It helps us feel the life of someone without living through their struggles. And here's the important thing. It is not exclusively reserved for artists alone. Yeah, it belongs to all of us, because all human beings have this extraordinary gift where we can express our feelings, not just what we see, but what we feel. Artists don't own it, they refine it. And the rest of us, we experience it. We respond to it. We carry it further. For no change can happen if you refuse to feel it first. No change whatsoever. We're talking about sparks of change. Sparks of change don't come from silence. It happens when you allow to be moved enough to be able to respond. That's what ignites change. And that will not be coming from a system or a slogan, but from a moment, a very significant moment, where you choose to look inside and decide to respond. That is where that ignition has come from. Now, I'm not asking you all to become artists. Some of you will, most of you won't. That's all right. But all of you, without exception, each and every one in this room, will be living in a world shaped by art. Accept that. So what am I asking you to do? I'm asking you all to please become conscientious consumers of art. Please pause, feel, think, and choose what you would like to define as true influence. Influence deserving you. Influence deserving the world you wish to live in. Now, some of you may choose to become the next Jalib, next Manto, next Faiz. And for those who do, I humbly submit myself as a student to them. In the beginning, as we discussed the neglected arts, I want you to please come back to it. Think about it for a second. Because perhaps the question that we're looking over here is not why arts. Because you may not write a poem, but there will be many poems that are about you. The question may not be why art. Perhaps the right question that we should ask is what happens to us, our life, when we live in one without it. Because folks, arts are not optional. Thank you.